Good morning, Metaverse. I'm Thor with the OCG Guild. Today we're going to talk about some really cool math, specifically compounding interest and how we use that in a business model to make some ridiculous earnings. We're going to use Star Atlas as the vehicle to get there. I'm going to show you how that specific play to earn game is set up in a way that has a lot of potential to maximize compounding interest to make the most out of your buck. So I'm going to go over to a nice little split screen to show you on Star Atlas, we have a marketplace that is open to ships at the moment. They have several different ships available to purchase, and some of the community members actually created some really neat tools that we can use and utilize to know exactly what we're going to do. So we come to this website on explorer.staratlas.club/staking. So thank you, Club, for putting that together. What this is it shows all the different ships that are available, what their current market price is, the APR percent, and it also the resupply days, how long it lasts before you have to resupply its disposable resources, food, fuel, ammo, and repair kits. And so we look at this, and the APRs by themselves are really high percentage rates. You have the Rainbow Chi that's at 136.5% APR at the market price of $9.84, and all the way down 120s into the hundreds, all the way down to 80% APR, which is still a very high APR. But what we want to talk about is, okay, you can purchase these ships, and if you keep them running, you make a really good APR, but how do we supercharge that with compounding interest? Well, normally with compounding interest, you would see an investment, a principal amount that you invest in something, you get a rate of return, and then those rewards or interest returns would then come out and you could spend those. Well, with compounding interest, you're rolling that back into the principal amount, and that increases the amount that percentage is working on. So if you started with $100 and you had a 10% rate of return annual, at the end of the year, you would have collected an extra $10. You then compound that back onto 100. Now it's 110 making 10% return. And so then the next year you would get $11 and you compound that on top, and that's now $121 making interest. That's great. For smaller rate of returns, it takes a little while for that compounding interest to really start making a big difference. But when you're starting out with returns of 136%, the effect of compounding interest is very evident very quickly. And so let me pull up a spreadsheet that I put together to illustrate this. This is the equation for compounding interest. All right, you were trying to find out what's the amount that our principal investment, our nest egg, is going to be at the end of this time period. So you put in the principal amount, 1 plus the interest rate. So it would be 136.5% if we were doing the Rainbow Chi. And then divided by the number of times that interest is compounded. So if you collect annually, it would be 1 time per year. And so that number would be 1, and this n is another 1 times the time, and so it is 1 year. So it would be 1 year was our annual collecting, and times 1. So it's to the power of 1. But if we collect it on a monthly basis, that n number would turn to 12. Okay, so this n collecting it monthly and compounding it monthly would be 12. And so what that does is I take $1,000 and I just put in, for simple math, 100% interest rate, a frequency of 12 for 12 months in the year for 1 year, and then that would come out to 2,613. So that is a 260% of what you started out with. And so what we want to do is maximize that frequency, because if we go up to, let's say we do it 2 times a month, that starts jumping up our rate of return significantly. But let's say if we could do it daily, okay? So that brings it up to 271% of what we started with, okay? What we want to look for is ways to increase that frequency and be able to pour all that investment back into our original principal amount. And so Star Atlas gives us the ability to do this because there are several ships in a scaling degrees, from $20 ships, which is the least expensive one, $21, $23. So in $20 increments, we can maximize our earnings all the way up to $100,000. So in actual practice, the way I would do this is I go to my faction fleet. I have rewards that I can claim. So these different ships are claim, or I have rewards that I can claim from those different ships. And then I would collect that, and I'm going to go through and collect that right now. All right, so I've collected all of my Atlas, and I've come up with about 3,418 Atlas is what I collected today. And so I want to roll that back into more ships, because the way we're looking at this, oftentimes you would purchase another stock. You roll it back into your stocks, or you would put it back in the bank as dollars. Well, our currency here is going to be in ships. And so I'm going to go up to my ships and look at the price points. And so Atlas is roughly 10 cents at this point, so we can figure out pretty close what I'm able to purchase with that amount. So if I have 3,000 Atlas, then I can get something that's close to $300, which is great. So I can purchase an Opal Jet, which is a very high rate of return right now at 130%. And then with any leftover, if I have enough to get an Opal Jet or a Pierce 4, then I can purchase that as well. So I'm going to go over to the marketplace. I'm going to go down to our Opal Jet. Got my Opal Jet. I'm going to go onto the marketplace. So it is currently 3,098 Atlas is the least expensive one, the floor, the purchase market. I'm just going to check the USD. So USD is 320. So if you wanted to change it out for Atlas for USD, you could do so as well. And there's a very large supply at the 320 mark, which that high supply is great for being able to do this again and again and again. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to purchase one, and I'm going to purchase at this price. I'm just going to confirm that that's good. Yep. And then I will purchase this Opal Jet. I'm going to approve that transaction. Wait for the green box. Da-da-da! And I have my Opal Jet. Go to my inventory, go to my ships, and we see our Opal Jet here. We claim that, approve that transaction. You don't have to claim the extra Atlas there, or if there's USDC, if you purchase that, you don't have to claim extra because it will automatically do that as well. All right, perfect. We have claimed it. All right, so I have claimed my Opal Jet. It shows up in my inventory, and then I will take it to my faction fleet. And I do not own an Opal Jet yet, so I will enlist this. And I have all the resources needed. I'm going to enlist, approve that transaction. And at the end of this, I'll have compounded the interest. I'll have collected my rewards from all of my ships it was 1,400. I then took all that and I bought an Opal ship, which has a rate of return, an APR of 130%. So I'm over my 100% threshold that I put up in our spreadsheet here. And then I stake it. I enlist it into the fleet. And it is now earning, let's find it here. It is now earning, it'll have 12 Atlas per day. So that ends up working out annually for 130% return on the 3,080 some Atlas that I spent on. So as time goes on, as you're buying more ships, you'll have built up a pretty sizable fleet of small X4s. I have 11 of those right now, and Opal Jets, I have 4 of those right now. What you can do is actually then go onto the market, because as the game develops, you're not going to want to have 150 little small jets once we get out of the mini game phase into actual playing. And so the end game for this is actually to trade those ships in, to sell them on the market, to build up the funds to buy a large ship. So we go back on the marketplace, and if I wanted to go and sell my Opal Jet, or let's go on, I have 11 X4s and I want to sell them. Well, right now the top of the sale market is there's 10. Someone's willing to buy 10 for $204.50, or Atlas, I'm sorry. And just one more right here. So I could sell all 11 for roughly 204 Atlas. So 204 Atlas, let's go 204 Atlas, should make it simple, times 11 gives me 2,240 Atlas. So I could cash those in and get something like an X5, which right now is 1,000 746, so minus 1,746, leaving me 498 Atlas left over, which will actually be about 2 full X4 ships. So if we break it down, I'd only have to sell off 9 X4 ships to be able to purchase a Pierce 5. And because these ships are priced relatively close to each other, that percent interest rate change, you can build up those ships, the small ships, and then cash it in for the larger ones. You can do that for a longer period of time if you have your eyes set on something like the Rainbow Chi. So Rainbow Chi, which is that really high interest rate compared to the rest of them. Let's check out the Rainbow Chi. Where are you? Liquid metal. I passed it. There we go. Okay, so right now it costs 10,000 Atlas. So I'll pull up that calculator again. And so the Rainbow Chi is 10,500 Atlas divided by the 204 that we can get. That would take 51 X4s to equal 1 Chi. So over the days, if you're able to earn in Atlas more than the cost of an X4 each day. So if you're able to earn more than 213 Atlas a day, then each day you would be able to pick up another X4 and stake it, and take up another X4 and stake it, another X4 and stake it. And over the course of about 50 days, you would add up to enough to sell those off, and it would take a little bit of time to sell them off, but you would be able to sell them off and then roll that into a Rainbow Chi. And so that's a larger ship, basically worth 50 X4s, a larger ship, and a really good rate of return. If you have a large fleet already and you're building up enough to purchase a Rainbow Chi every day, well, those will build up and you keep compounding that interest until you have enough to pick up something larger like Calico Evac, or maybe a Bombarella or something like that in the capital ship range, where they're still making over 100% return. Okay, so you're staying in this range and you're keeping that interest rate, that return on your investment higher than 100%, then you know that you're hitting that mark, and you're compounding it with the small ships, and compounding it gives you some serious power here. So let's say I have roughly $10,000 worth of ships. So I'll be making $27,000 if I compound it after the end of the year. Then if I go for 2 years, I'll be able to make $73,000. 3 years, $200,000. See how this starts skyrocketing up? And these are really fun numbers. So when you're thinking about how much to invest into, or how much to purchase into a play to earn game, which play to earn game to go into, you want to find projects that allow you to utilize compounding interest, because this is an extremely powerful tool. For games that just have a flat interest or a limit on the amount of earnings you can make per day, that really cuts down on your ability to utilize this compounding interest. So then you might think, well, what if all the ships end up being bought up? Or if we keep buying these ships, won't the prices keep going up and we'll be getting a lower interest rate each time? The answer is yes, it will gradually over time, but we're hitting well above that 100% interest rate, which is phenomenal. And so over the course of a year, to be able to achieve 100% return APR is very doable at this point. Also, Star Atlas has not released the other part of their game, which is the structures. This is land claims and power plants, mining facilities, space stations. All of these assets will have earning potential as well. Some of them will be small. Tier 1 claim stakes are supposed to be fairly achievable for your beginning gamer, all the way up to Tier 5 claim stake, which should be a very large asset. This legendary asset, much like a $100,000 ship or a $30,000 ship. So there's a lot more asset to be obtained that you can then roll your ships. You can buy your ships and you can roll them into structures and sell off the ships and buy a big structure. And what that will do, the selling off of the small ships will keep the small ship price suppressed from inflating uncontrollably. It would naturally push itself down, and then as the new players come in, those are the ships that they would be purchasing anyways. So it maintains a little bit more stability because you have this ebb and flow. You're compounding, so you're buying, and it creates a increase in the value, and then you sell off those smaller ships for the larger ships, because when it gets to a larger scale, that starts making more sense as the game becomes more immersive playing ability, and where you actually have to run these ships. Now, you're building up all these ships, and that's great. We want to keep things as passive as possible to be able to scale out that large, and when the game develops into a more interactive play style, that's when you start integrating the scholarship programs, the lending program for lending out all of your assets, so that you're able to maintain that scale. But that's the ultimate reason why you want fewer ships, larger ships that you can then lease out to a handful of people, and one person can still manage a significant portfolio of assets that you've built up through this compounding interest business model. And so that is what I am going to be doing. Now, none of this is financial advice. This is just educational. But I pose the question, why would you not do this? If you can answer that, you can feel free to send me a message and we can talk more about it. But for right now, this is the best platform I've found and the best investment strategy for the assets that I want to put into play to earn gaming. I hope this was helpful. Don't worry about liking or subscribing. Forget that stuff. Just if you know somebody that you think this information would help, then share the video with them and expand the knowledge and understanding of crypto, play to earn gaming, and business finances. And if you can do that, then today was a good day. Good morning, Metaverse.